Happy Halloween. This is High on Horror, and I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to all the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today we're celebrating our favorite holiday of the year.
Oh yeah, this in 420, right?
With a movie that we've been waiting for a long time, the long-awaited Never Hike Alone 2, which is now available to watch on YouTube. It already has well over 1 million watches. Director and writer Vincent DiSanti is joining us today, again, so we're going to pick his brain about it. You do not want to miss this. All that and more today on
High on Horror.
Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. All right, if you heard that choo-choo, then you know it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment of our show that we love starting our show off with because we get to smoke and we get to talk about what we're getting wrecked on. John, what's on the menu today?
It eases us into the movie discussion.
Absolutely.
I stopped at the dispensary. It's only a little half-gram, boy, but I got us a pre-rolled of golden strawberry.
Oh, sweet. It sounds good. That sounds like something from Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. I met a chick at the bar. We went back home and did the golden strawberry.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Golden strawberry, it says here, get always from Leafly here. Golden strawberry is a great example of why strain names can be confusion. I've talked about the confusion and used the wrong word. Amazing. It's a cross of kosher kush and strawberry banana, but it can also be a cross of golden goat. I want to try that.
Golden goat? Damn, it sounds good.
And sour strawberry. Both of these strains are hybrids that offer mild THC levels. You'll feel light and carefree. Everything looks just a little brighter with this strain. It feels like the first cup of coffee in the morning, a subtle yet noticeable feeling. Did they get somebody who writes these reviews, like in the review section, to make this one for him?
It sounds like it.
As its name suggests, it has a lot of berry flavor in the smoke. However, you are also going to get subtle notes of earthiness and pepper. I doubt that. I mean, I take some puffs, man. But for the super connoisseurs here that can like a sommelier of weed, like, ooh, I got that blackberry on the tip of my tongue.
Just a little bit of pepper.
This is a great strain for beginners as it offers a great flavor and a mellow mood. Damn, they're calling us.
We smoke a beginner weed. I bet it still works, though. Uplifted
and hungry.
Well, we always hungry. So.
Negative, anxious, headache, and dry mouth.
Oh, you didn't say it.
Dry mouth? It's funny because somebody on here in the reviews actually talked about this is the first thing they've ever smoked. Somebody from August 3rd of last year, it's a 2-word review, fucking awesome.
Okay.
There was one here, as always, they make it hard to fucking bring this up. Oh, here it is. This one, again, I read them just as they're written. So some of this, I'm just confused by what it means.
Okay.
This is my first time smoking this, and it's okay. You feel up for a few minutes, and then just chill like some old school back in the day, bud. Christmas tree emoji. Head and body buzz. No cotton mouth. Well, he said mouth. Or starving like my GG number 4. You be, just the letter B, you be starving on that shit. And it's an emoji of a guy drooling a dinner plate and a burger. But this I'm all right. And that's how it is.
Okay. I got to give it to you, dude. You do find the best reviews of these weeds. I mean, I
scan them through and I'm trying to give them that dramatic effect.
I said of these weeds. You do find good reviews of these weeds. No, you do, though. Yeah, you tend to find the ones that... they're not the best written, but they're certainly the most entertaining.
All right, we're sparking this shit.
Yeah, all right. So I guess the first thing that we should talk about to our listeners is tomorrow, November 1st, Wednesday. Terrifier 2 is coming back to theaters for one screening at limited theaters. And
it's supposed to be over 2 days, right?
Well, around here it's only one screening.
Around here it's only one.
Some places aren't getting any. So if there are some places that get 2, that's totally possible.
It's supposed to be over 2 nights, but like you said, the one by us I think is just on Wednesday.
There's 2 near us, and it's the same.
And
day.
I looked at tickets, and I mean, it's selling pretty good.
And yeah, the first time I saw both of them in theaters, they weren't that packed. So it's pretty funny because I think the reason everybody's going is because If you go to this special re-screening of Terrifier 2, you get a free full-size 24 by 36 Terrifier 3 poster, and it's
and it
only
looks nice.
yes, and it's only available to those who attend the screening. It's limited to the first 100 people at the theater, which is good for us because our theater doesn't even have 100 seats. So, but there was a big spoiler. Somebody already released a teaser picture of the poster. John, you were the first person I showed it to. Why don't you tell the listeners what it is who haven't heard
of the
what the big reveal is of the
it's
Terrifier
a Christmas
3 poster.
movie.
Yep.
It's going to try to, for me, is it going to try to rival Die Hard as my favorite Christmas movie?
He's wearing in the artwork. He is wearing Santa's face around his neck like it's a mask, and he has like intestines going along the tree instead of lights and shit like that. Somebody made a comment and said, if Art the Clown doesn't dress up like full Santa in this movie, I'm going to be greatly disappointed. And David Howard Thornton responded and said, then you'll be greatly happy. So we're going to get full on Art the Clown as fucking in a Christmas movie dressed as Santa. How do you feel about that? The fact that they're going from 2 Terrifier films on Halloween to now tackling Christmas. I'm all about it. Dude.
Are we going to do Thanksgiving next year or
New Year's?
on 4 here? I don't know if the poster was leaked. I think it was shared from some official people, wasn't it? Or had it been?
It wasn't supposed to come out yet. Like Damien Leone even said, he was like, "Well, the cat's out of the bag." Like it was supposed to wait till Wednesday, and whoever it was, it might have been an official person, but they still we're not supposed to post that shit on X. X is where it made its debut. It was a post on X.
Fucking Elon. But yeah, it should be interesting to have it as a Christmas movie. We'll see it. So
yeah, and I think that you can never get enough Christmas slashers, and I just think that this one, I just really think we're in for something special here because after the alley kill in Terrifier 2, you have Damien Leone yet again saying that he's going to up the gore and the intensity and the brutality. So you're going to right, and it's going to be a Christmas movie.
Well,
so
we
we're
also
gonna
said that about Taint Solid. How
we are going to get a really fucked up, brutal Christmas slasher movie, and I am all about it. Goddamn, I am all about it. So. I mean, just from what I'm guessing, he's going to follow. It's taking place in the same year, obviously, and I'm thinking Art the Clown is now going after Sienna and Jonathan after Christmas. They've probably just tried to fucking settle down and recover from whatever happened, after killing Art and Terrifier 2, whoever they're living with now because mom's dead, and all that shit. They're just probably settling down, getting in the Christmas holiday spirit mood, whatever, and here comes Art again, ready to fuck up their Christmas, dude. I love this. This is some evil shit.
Well, Art isn't a nice guy. But you remember when Craig Loigren told us that the Taint Song scene's going to get topped in this one a couple of times. And we're just like, okay. I'm sure it'll be good. I don't know, but it's going to top it. God damn. Now I'm saying the same shit about the bleach and salt. It's hard
to imagine what's going to top that, but I'm all about it. Hopefully,
I wish I could re-experience that scene for the first time,
dude. I know. I hope that we get to see a long, drawn out, brutal scene like that of Art skinning Santa or doing something to a Santa imposter, or like a Goodwill Santa out there ringing the bell in front of Walmart or something.
Salvation Army.
That's what I meant. What I say?
Goodwill, I think.
Well, whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah. Some kind of
This Golden Strawberry's doing its job. I don't remember what I said 5 seconds ago.
Okay, so moving on. Five Nights at Freddy's made its debut at theaters and also on Peacock and is doing really well. Actually, haven't recently checked the numbers. I don't know if it's number 1 or not, but it's doing really good at the box office. Jason Blum is happy with it anyway. Although it currently has a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it late last night. Directed by Emma Tammy, starring Josh Hutcherson, Matthew Lillard, Elizabeth Lail, and Piper Rubio. I actually really liked the movie, despite seeing people mostly having negative opinions of it. I still think Willy's Wonderland is better, though. Did you watch it? Do you have plans of watching it?
I have not watched it. I might get around to watching. I'm not too familiar with the original stuff. My nephew was kind of into that stuff when he was younger, and playing that on the phone and tablet and shit. From the stills, I was like, Willy's Wonderland aesthetically looks better to me. But I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not going to judge it on which one's better. It's kind of weird. I see a lot of critical reviews that are terrible. Sorry, I had to hit that.
Yeah, of course.
But like IGN gave it a 4. I usually
Jesus.
don't. The only time I ever pay attention to IGN reviews are when they're bad, because they're usually so like rose-colored glasses about everything.
Yeah, yep.
That I'm like, if they gave that a bad rating, it's probably bad. They gave it a 4.
That's pretty bad, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, like out of 10.
Yeah, that's rough.
And usually, like, I know you don't play it, but like the Madden games suck ass now. They still give them like an 8 out of 10 every year. Like,
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of yeah. I
yeah.
get
So
it.
what I'm saying is, like, they're kind of on the nicer side. But the reviews I've been seeing in horror groups from other people, a lot of people seem to like it though.
Yeah, they did a really good. Did you see like what Freddy and like Chica and like Bonnie, like what the actual like animatronics look like? Like they look really fucking good. They did.
I've
really
only
good
seen the
job.
stills.
They did a really good job with how they look. But I did. Yeah, there's.
Is it kid friendly? Because I know Five Nights at Freddy's is kind of more like kid horror.
Yeah.
It's a little, I wouldn't say much for kids, but more closer to being adult horror.
Yeah.
But I know like a lot of kids like eat that shit up.
Well, honestly, I feel like if you're a really strict parent, you probably wouldn't want them watching this. But to me, it was like nothing that my kid couldn't take. He's 6, but there's like maybe one kill that's like a little gory, and even that is like kind of shown on like the wall, like a shadow. You just see somebody kind of getting ripped in half or cut in half, and it's like a shadow, so you don't really see much of it. And besides that, there's just some language. Like there's the couple F-bombs and
Oh,
adult
really? I'm
language.
surprised.
Yeah. So besides that, it's totally like I think it's totally kid friendly as long as you don't mind a few curse words here and there. But who doesn't cuss in front of kids? I mean, it happens.
Sometimes kids cuss.
All right. Yeah. Now let's get into horror history.
This week in horror history.
All right, horror hiss. So let's get on into that bitch. So yesterday on Monday, the 30th, for births, we have Henry Winkler played uncredited for some reason. I don't know why, but in Scream as Principal Hembry.
He's uncredited?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not in the credits.
No shit.
He was born 1945. Who doesn't like the Fonz? Just real quick. I know we're not trying to make this too long, but were you a Happy Days fan?
I used to watch it when I was younger. It's been a long time, but everybody likes Fonzie, man.
Yeah,
Like everybody likes the Fonz.
I used to stay home from school when I was sick, and then like early morning, it was like Happy Days and All in the Family, and then it would switch over to Bob Barker.
What made him cool, what made the Fonz cool was that he was a cool kid, but he also like didn't take people getting bullied. So it was like he was a really cool character.
1953, Charles Martin Smith. He appeared in Starman, not really horror, but,
Carpenter.
it's Carpenter, so I'll bring it up. Trick or Treat, and the TV movie The Beast.
Yeah, he played Mr. Wimbley in Trick or Treat. That is the best metal horror movie ever made, and it takes place on Halloween. You listeners need to make sure you watch it this year. You're running out of time.
I was going to say, would you consider Maximum Overdrive a metal horror movie?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well then that's number 1.
Well, in your opinion.
Because it's
but-
AC/DC.
Yes, yeah. But
It's funny. Our friend Kenny, AC/DC is his favorite band too. I was talking to him about it. I asked him if he's ever seen it, and he goes, no. And then I told him what it's about. He goes, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And I was like, yeah, the entire soundtrack. I was like, the album Who Made Who? That's the soundtrack for Maximum Overdrive. It's all AC/DC.
so he's like, I'll watch that shit.
He said next time, remember this in case I forget, next time he's home, he wants to get fucked up.
And watch Maximum
smoke
Overdrive?
a bunch and watch Maximum Overdrive.
Sign
I
me
was
up.
like, fucking A.
I'm there.
Oh, jeez. Nah, fucking, yeah. 1981, Fiona Dourif, obviously the daughter of Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky. She's done Fear Clinic, Curse of Chucky, a lot of Chucky stuff.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, and she did True Blood as well.
Yes, yeah, can't forget that. But no, I mean, I love her. She was such a sweetheart. When I met her back in 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah, actually, when we were waiting in line to see Brad, remember he paused his line because Fiona just got in and
Yep.
hadn't seen each other in a
Yeah,
while.
he gave her a hug, gave her a nice fatherly hug before like a stop sign. That was a nice wholesome moment.
Films. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. maybe the fourth best sequel in the series, Halloween 2.
Halloween 2, 1981. Yeah, man. I think, like I said, I went back to that being the first best sequel. I like H1, H2, and H2O was my trilogy.
Saturday the 14th, 1981 as well.
This is an awesome movie, very silly and fun.
Yeah, funny enough, my friend Dale, who listens to our show, he just messaged me recently about that movie and said he watched it for the first time.
Probably because it's on Amazon Prime, yeah, so it's getting out there. That's awesome.
Saturday the 14th Strikes Back, terrible. I remember my dad told me about Saturday the 14th, and I went to Borders.
Okay.
Borders. And I saw
Borders,
Saturday
Books,
the
and Music.
14th, and I was like, hell yeah, I bought it, and then learned that it was a sequel, and I don't fucking get it.
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
I've never seen it.
I mean,
I guess I won't
you
now.
don't have to. And then another sequel, Slumber Party Massacre 2, 1987.
God damn, I hate this movie. It's so popular, man, but I fucking despise it. Move on.
One of the most underrated vampire flicks. I know, even though you love the man, you're not a fan of it. John Carpenter's Vampires, 1998.
Yeah, I love the man, but not a fan.
Dude, I fucking love that. But dude, James Woods is so fucking badass in that movie. I fucking love him.
I mean, it had its moments. I love the Western element of it,
Yeah.
for sure.
Evil Weed, 2009.
Yeah, I've never seen this one, so I think we definitely need to add this to the list. This is a high on horror movie if I've ever seen one.
I mean, long play here. Maybe a 420 episode.
Fuck yeah. Let's we're gonna get too high and forget, so let's write that down now.
And moving on to today, Halloween. Who was born on the Devil's Holiday? 1927, Lee Grant, who played the stepmother of the son of the devil in The Omen 2, and also appeared in Visiting Hours.
Okay.
1936, Michael Landon, most people know from Little House on the Prairie, but he actually started his career in I Was a Teenage Werewolf. 1945, Brian Doyle Murray, the brother of Bill Murray. He's been in Ghostbusters 2, Bedazzled, which is an underrated comedy. I don't know if you could really consider it horror, even though the devil's in it. And Casper, A Spirited Beginning.
The devil was hot as hell in Bedazzled, though. I will say
Yes.
that. I will say that. And I know that's actually a pun, but I mean it in both ways. Like,
yeah, I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, but no, the devil is Elizabeth Hurley, man.
1961, writer, director, producer Peter Jackson. Obviously, he did Lord of the Rings, but we also have the Frighteners.
Yeah.
King Kong in District 9.
Yeah, and you can't forget to mention Meet the Feebles and Bad Taste. But I think he actually produced District 9. Neil Blomkamp directed
yes,
District
that's
9.
right.
But it was actually, it's funny you said that because that has that Nightmare Before Christmas thing where that was what sold District 9, was his fucking name on it. So like, it's just like Nightmare Before Christmas, everybody's like, it's a Tim Burton movie, and it's actually not. So it's funny that came up.
You know what'd be funny? I think it would be hilarious to see what he would churn out. Just even write in a script. I'd love to see Peter Jackson's interpretation of Halloween. If they reboot it,
Oh my God.
can we get Peter? I want to see Peter. I feel like it'll be the closest and reverential to Carpenter. I don't know. I feel like that's the man to make a Halloween movie.
I think that would be
I don't
pretty
think the
sick.
budget is going to be what he wants it to be. It'll have like the first like $600 million Halloween movie from like his budgets.
They're fucking filming it in New Zealand and like beautiful scenery and shit.
And it's finishing out the burst here in 1963. Dermot Mulroney, Zodiac and Copycat. And we had some deaths in 1926. Master magician Harry Houdini. My dad was real big into Houdini. I learned I don't remember any of it now, but I just remember like learning so much useless shit about Harry Houdini because my dad thought he was the fucking man. 1988, John Houseman. He was in The Fall, Ghost Story. Passed away at the age of 86. 1993, River Phoenix passed away at the age of 23. I guess Stand By Me. Would you consider that horror?
I would say like a thriller for sure.
Okay.
And I don't use this term often. I don't know if I've ever used it, but I would consider this one like a dark drama. Even I like that term for this one. But I had a story that I wanted to tell that I learned recently. I don't know how much I don't know if this is common knowledge or not, but I am a fan of this movie, and I had never heard this. So when I heard this, I was totally blown away. It was recent that I heard this, just a few months ago. So the movie Stand By Me is based on the book The Body by Stephen King.
Yes.
And the reason for the title, the script and everything was still titled The Body. But when the movie finally came out, the title was changed to Stand By Me. And there was never really an answer as to like why, what was the change. The thing that happened, like the change was in between takes. Director Rob Reiner was walking behind the scenes or doing whatever, walking on set, and Kiefer Sutherland was teaching River Phoenix how to play Stand By Me on guitar. And he stopped and listened to them play, and then he was like, "What are you guys doing?" And Kiefer was like, "I'm teaching River how to play Stand By Me." And he stood and listened for a second and moved on. And the next thing you know, the movie is titled Stand By Me. So I thought that was really cool, especially considering that River's dead.
Oh man, yeah. And then of course I just lost my spot here. Oh, there we go. We're back on track. 1997, Rosalind Cash passed away at the age of 56. Tales from the Hood, fucking classic, underrated, I think. The Omega Man as well. Mm-hmm. Charlton Heston was in that. Get your hands off me, you damn dirty apes. 2004, Don Briscoe, who played the werewolf Chris Jennings on Dark Shadows, passed away at the age of 64. I never got into Dark Shadows.
My mom loved it.
I know you were into. My mom was into it too, but I know there's a lot of people that's important to, so we'll include that. And films, you have The Case of the Black Cat, 1936. Son of Dr. Jekyll, 1951. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1952.
1962.
I'm sorry, 62, yes. Hey, my notes were right. I spoke it wrong. So my notes were right.
But though undoubtedly one of the greatest movies ever made. This is an absolute masterpiece of a film, man. Davis and Crawford tore the fucking house down for the ages with these performances, especially Davis. This is one of those movies that if you haven't seen it, like, you need to stop whatever the fuck you're doing right now and watch it, and don't bitch and moan because it's black and white.
I gotta say, one of the top horror films for sure of its decade.
Oh my god, yeah.
What, that and the only other one that sticks out is Night of the Living Dead to me.
For sure. Yeah, and
I'm sure,
different movies and horrific in totally different ways.
Phantom of the Paradise, 1974.
My boy Beef. You know, this is my favorite De Palma film. I won't go on about it. We talk about this movie kind of a lot, actually. This movie comes up a lot for some reason.
I saw it. I was like, I got to put it on there for Drew. Shock Treatment, 1981.
Now, you're not a Rocky Horror Picture Show fan. I am. This is the sequel. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay, it's totally different. It takes place in like a hospital and shit, so you should check that out.
No reason to really include this on the list, but Elvira's Haunted Hills, 2002.
No, that's a classic. Not nearly as good as Mistress of the Dark, but
for sure.
Anytime you get to see Elvira, it's a good time.
Yeah, grab a tool and start banging, even though that's not that movie, but
still.
That's when I hear Elvira, that's literally the first thing that comes to my mind is that scene.
It's not a bad scene to remember. I can understand why.
Evil Bong, 2006. We reviewed that.
Yep.
Vampira, the movie, 2006. I've not seen it, but I had to include it. The Haunting of Molly Hartley, 2008.
This one I really liked, and I feel like it's severely underrated. It just came out at the time when there was all those, like, a haunting in Connecticut, a haunting in this, and so I feel like it got totally overlooked.
That's the one thing, I think we've talked about it, is it feels like horror. Somebody finds something new, it works, and then they're like, oh, that's the formula.
Yeah, and like, we're just going to milk the shit out of it now.
Man. Zombies went away, and then Walking Dead came back, and the first couple seasons were good, and now it's like, okay, I love zombies, and now you're making me hate them.
They literally beat the shit out of The Walking Dead to the point where it had no fans left, and now they're like, now we're doing 3 spinoffs.
And, Hell House, 2009. Moving on to November 1st for births. We're going all the way back to 1881. Edward Van Sloan, he was Abraham Van Helsing in the original adaptation of Dracula. Mm-hmm. He was in Dracula's Daughter, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Black Room. A lot of the good Universal movies. And then 1929, Betsy Palmer, who played, obviously, Jason's mom. And she also played the title role in Bell Witch, the movie.
Nice. And it's funny that she never wanted to play the role. She hates Friday the 13th.
She shit on that
hated
franchise
it.
so much.
She was the first person to tell you she did it for a paycheck. It's so crazy.
I needed new car, is what she said. Okay, well, you still appear. It's a shitty movie. Well, guess what? You're in that shitty movie, so.
Most famous role, too. It's funny how that worked.
Man, but she did have hairy forearms at the end of that movie. Toni Collette, who co-starred in The Sixth Sense and the remake of Fright Night.
And she was robbed of an Academy Award and Oscar for Hereditary.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jenny McCarthy.
Why not?
Scream 3, Scary Movie 3, I think, too, as well, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And 1975, happy birthday to a former guest, Lucky McKee. All Cheerleaders Die. May, The Woman.
Yeah, and his newest film, Old Man, starring Stephen Lang, that fucking rocks too. Check it out.
And films, we got The Phantom, 1931. Daughters of Satan, 1972.
I don't know. When I hear that, I just picture titties everywhere. I just feel like that's one of those like sleazy, just naked people, and probably dead wrong.
You know what?
I probably have seen this movie because it sounds so familiar. But I'm just saying, like again, I have not familiar enough with it to know if I've seen it. I probably fucking own it and have seen it, but I just hear the title, Daughters of Satan, and I just picture like this dude with like a hairy chest. This is the weed talking, by the way. Dude with a hairy chest, the horns.
What's funny is he doesn't have any notes on this. This is something he just thought of now.
Yes, and like 6 just naked, like titties out, full
Titties
70s bush women. Like, I don't know, Daughters of Satan. If that doesn't exist, I'm sure it exists in another movie somewhere.
See, and you were talking about that, and again, it's the weed. I just made a connection. Those 70s movies, I mean, there's a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. Exactly that formula you just described.
So I'm saying, if it's not the devil,
what you know what I think they are? They are the softcore porn that we got in the 90s with those kind of like Skinamax shit.
Yeah, man.
That was that version back in the 70s, which you actually had to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, it was sleaze. Yeah, for sure.
And moving on here, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge.
I still love this movie, man. This is the last time Freddy was actually scary, and I'll always stand by that.
The pool scene. You got that.
Yeah.
The People Under Them Stairs, 1991. Okay, it's The People Under the Stairs. Bad Moon, 1996.
Again, severely underrated movie.
I love it.
Yeah, this is just now getting kind of a fan base from what I've seen. One of the best werewolf designs and one of the best werewolf movies around, based on the book Thor by Wayne Smith.
28 Days Later, 2002. I don't know if I've told this story on here. If I did, I'm telling it again. I think I've told you, though, about how I went and this guy came in like 5 minutes late into the movie.
Yes.
He sat up front and just was on a cell phone back in 2002 just talking. And I mean, like, the guy, for some of you that are younger, before you had assigned seats, you had to get to the movie like 45 minutes early on opening night if you wanted a good seat. Like, I went to go see Star Wars 3 and got there 2 hours early so I could get a good seat. But this guy comes in and just walks to the front because it's pretty much sold out. It's opening weekend. And he goes right to the front. He just keeps talking like as loud as I am right now, just on his phone. And some dude from the back just yells, "Shut the fuck up!" This dude just got quiet. Like, people started, like, people literally started clapping. Like,
started clapping?
When the guy yelled, "Shut the fuck up." And you know that, like, the dude got quiet. You know, at that point when you're like, "Oh, am I the asshole?" Oh, the whole theater's clapping.
It's like that scene in Scary Movie when the girl's like talking during the theater.
Yeah, except he didn't get stabbed. Nobody stabbed him.
Yeah, nobody got stabbed.
And Dracula, the 2009 version. Anything to say about that?
No. No.
November 2, we got One Birth. 1981, Catherine Isabel. Ginger Snaps, Freddy vs. Jason. The classic That's See No Evil 2.
It's a classic. Okay. I see what you did there.
And that's all we really got for the second. Moving on to the third. Births, we have 1921, Charles Bronson. I mean, everybody knows him from, I just literally lost the name of the franchise. It's the one that...
Why are you doing this? Death Wish.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
mostly
why are you
known
doing
from
this
the
to me?
Death Wish series, But one of his early films was House of Wax from 1953.
Oh, yeah.
1938, we have Gene Roland. He had those erotic horror films.
That's right.
This is a real title, The Rape of the Vampire. He was really into vampires, too. The Nude Vampire, Requiem for a Vampire, The Shiver of the Vampires, The Living Dead Girl, The Grapes of Death, Two Orphan Vampires. He was very much into vampires.
Yeah, and speaking of, if you want to see like a lot of girls lying
With their
around with their
titties
titties out,
six titties out, apparently.
you gotta love Gene Roland, man.
How do you think like you just like, hey, I'm casting. Look, the main thing you need to be doing is just pulling titties out. And they're like, all right, we'll take
Just
that
put these
paycheck.
vampire fangs in, put this little cape on, and just walk around with your titties out.
1953, Dennis Miller from Bordello of Blood.
Oh no, you skipped ahead one.
Oh shit. Oh, goddamn, I did.
Don't want to miss that one.
Man, this fucking golden strawberry. I got golden strawberry. 1946. Some of you might have heard of this makeup artist, Tom Savini. I mean,
That's kind of, sort of.
where the fuck do you even start with his career? There's
Right.
so many. If you don't know who he is, I ain't fucking telling you. Shame on you. 1987, Gemma Ward starred in The Strangers. And I put this on here for you. We're getting to films. 1954, Gojira, also
right.
known as Godzilla.
The greatest monster movie of all time.
1976, Carrie. Also 1976, another classic, Bloodsucking Freaks.
Yeah, it is a classic.
Stepfather 2 from 1989. I don't know why I felt the need to include the sequel.
Still love it. I still like the sequel, man.
November 4th, we have Burst 1959, Ken Kersinger. Obviously, his biggest one's got to be playing Jason and Freddy versus Jason.
Yep.
But he did some X-Files, Poltergeist TV show, Supernatural. He does a lot of stunt stuff. 1969, all right, Matthew McConaughey. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. That movie's so bad.
Dude.
It's so bad, but like I remember watching it and liking it as a kid.
Yeah, I feel like I'd rather watch Pinhead in space, bro.
You want to know what's funny?
What's
that
that?
is the only Texas Chainsaw Massacre that Nicole has seen.
Oh God.
And she likes it. She actually had it on DVD.
All right, we'll tell her not to watch the rest of them then, because she'll hate them if she likes that one.
But he was in the best Christopher Nolan movie. I'll take arguments that you could argue The Dark Knight. Outside of Dark Knight, Interstellar. It's not horror. I just want to bring up Interstellar.
Love Interstellar.
1982, Travis Van Winkle. He was in the remake of Friday the 13th.
Yep, yeah, it was.
1982, for deaths, we have Dominique Dunn, sister of Griffith Dunn. She starred in Poltergeist and was a part of the supposed Poltergeist curse and died at the age of 22.
It's unfortunate.
Michael Crichton passed away in 2008 at the age of 66. Some of his novels were adapted to film. Andromeda Strain, Jurassic Park, Congo, and some more. Films, They Live, 1988.
I still can't believe you missed that screening with me, man.
I know, dude. You're like, oh, so I'm here, and I'm like, what the fuck? How did I forget about this?
I thought you were sick and
Nicole was
couldn't go.
like, Nicole, I should just listen to her. She's like, just go. I'm like, no, it's about to start. She's like you haven't seen this movie a million times. You can just go late. I'm like, no, I don't want to go now.
Going in 10 minutes late doesn't count.
Like, yeah, it's like somehow it negates that I saw it in theaters. Phantom of the Opera from 1989. Frankenstein from 1994. I did not know this was a movie, and I included it on here just to see if I get a reaction out of you. I spit on your corpse, I piss on your grave.
Yeah,
From 2001.
yeah, I remember this one being on eBay back in the day and trying to get my hands on it. I'm glad I didn't because it's a piece of shit.
Return to Sleepaway Camp 2008.
Okay, speaking of pieces of shit, look, I love Sleepaway Camp. I can take 2 and 3 despite the angle they went, but Return to Sleepaway Camp is a fucking piece of shit.
All right, so on that, we'll just move on to the whole next day. November 5th, for births, we got Robert Patrick from what Josiah saw, Terminator 2, The Faculty, Dusk Till Dawn 2.
The X-Files, I don't know if you said that already.
No, I did not, but yeah, X-Files as well. 1965, Famke Janssen. She was in that House on Haunted Hill remake. Nicole loves that movie.
It's
And
all right, man. But
I'm
Vincent
like, nah,
Price
if I
is
want to
better.
watch House on Haunted Hill, I'm going to just watch Vincent Price. She's like,
Yeah.
you ain't even watched this whole movie. I was like, yeah, don't have Vincent Price. I don't need to.
Nothing in the remake is scarier than the blind maid from the Vincent Price one.
She was also in The Faculty as well.
Oh, right.
And also for Burst, 1971, Corin Nemec. He was in the Stan miniseries and played Ted Bundy in Bundy and American Icon. For films, we got Son of Dracula, 1943, and The Bone Collector, 1999. And that'll wrap up our horror history. It's Halloween, so we should probably pack something here. So we'll take a little break. We'll come back with some more weed for you. Well, not for you, for us. We'll smoke it and let you know what we're smoking. And, I mean, it's a perfect time because we're also getting into Puff Puff Ask.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
All right, before we get started here, I couldn't find anything on Leafly, but I got something called Cannablitz. And it is 21.21% THC. I don't know if it's an indica. I don't know if it's a sativa. The packaging's purple, so I'm thinking indica, but fuck it, we're smoking it.
All right. Well, yeah, we're in Puff Puff Ask now, so that's definitely perfect to start up with. This is a segment of our show where our listeners, you, write into us on social media at highonhorror420 and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com or our website at highonhorror.com. I'll start. Dylan D. from our hometown, Newcastle, Delaware, asks, I know you guys are big fans of Reanimator, and some friends and I were talking about who would be the best person to direct a remake. Who do you guys think would do a good job directing a remake? That movie is so batshit crazy, insane, and beautiful that I don't want it remade, but I'll stick with who I usually go with, Alex Aja, the man behind Crawl, High Tension, and the Hills Have Eyes remake. I feel like he's someone that would not drop the ball on this. Scott Derrickson is another good choice.
Yeah, I mean, not to cheat since I just brought him up for horror history and he's fresh on my mind, but Peter Jackson, I think, would be a good one.
Oh, for Reanimator, dude? Yeah. With the gore? Oh, fuck yeah.
I got one for you. Hold on here. I'll pass you the bong real
Okay.
quick. Probably should have gave you the lighter with it, but there you
that
go.
would work, thank you.
But here's one. Guillermo del Toro.
Oh.
I think he would make an awesome
His
Reanimator.
zombies would be fucking off the chain.
Dude, right?
His serum and shit, you know, oh, man, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be a good one. Shit. Masked Menace on Instagram. Which Masked Menace, though, you think? Is it Michael? Is it Jason? I mean, I was going to say Freddy, but Freddy's not really masked. He just got a pepperoni face.
Is he a vigilante?
He's a vigilante. If John Carpenter did a score for a Wes Craven movie, which movie do you think he'd have done the best work on?
Oh.
I also kind of want to just rephrase your question to make it sound the way I want it to sound. And which one should he do? I'm going to take it that all these soundtracks already exist. Nightmare's fine. That's a good one. I think of one that you don't really think of the music too much for. And I think throwing a Carpenter theme on there would make it even better, is Scream. It's not so much of what's his version of the Nightmare on Elm Street theme. Mine is just like Scream doesn't really have like notable music.
That's a very good
It
point.
just has music kind of contemporary for the time. But if you put Carpenter on there to make a soundtrack for Scream, I think it makes it even better.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. You're right, Scream. I never thought about that, but Scream really doesn't have a theme.
That music they play sounds like the same shit they play in Peaky Blinders. I swear to God it is.
Yeah, and the other shit that they play is that shitty rock radio classic.
Yeah, like let Carpenter work on that and make a soundtrack for it.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Nightmare on Elm Street soundtrack is perfect, actually. I listen to it at work all the time. It's great shit. I would actually put Carpenter on The People Under the Stairs. I think that's a great question, though.
But that's kind of like Scream 2 is like he would just add to it.
No notable music.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like a simple answer is Nightmare on Elm Street. Because, I mean, it's just easy to say, oh, Freddy. But I feel like you don't need to change that soundtrack. So I think the one he would kind of want to work on would be how I look at it. Where can he add the most value?
Yeah, that's a very good point. No, I like that.
But those were two pretty good questions.
Yeah, those are really good.
And it was funny because they both kind of made me rack my brain. But then when I finally got to my answer, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, they actually were they were real questions that make you think. It's pretty funny.
And of course, we picked the thinking questions. On the day, we're just going extra.
Yeah, we're racked right now.
We're going with 420 of the fall. That's what Halloween's going to be.
October 420. All right, well, if any of you listeners out there have any questions for us, make sure you reach out to us on social media. Again, that's High on Horror 420 on all social media platforms. Or email us at highonhorror420.com. I'm sorry, email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com or visit our website, highonhorror.com. There we go. Now, let's get into our review of Never Hike Alone 2.
All right, today's movie is Never Hike Alone 2. It's a Friday the 13th fan film made by today's guest, Vincent DiSanti. It continues the story of Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow, and also continues the Tommy Jarvis saga. Todd Matthews and Vinny Guastafaro, who we've had on the show previously, are back as Tommy Jarvis and Sheriff Rick Cologne. Andrew Lee Lighty is back as Kyle MacLeod as well. We were both huge fans of the first Never Hike series, and we've been looking forward to the second one since Vincent told us about it last time he was on.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, from the start, I love this movie. Any scenes with Tommy and Rick were amazing.
Yeah.
They put a smile on my face. The Yabang scene was great. I literally was watching it, and when it happened, I literally out loud, it was like, yes! I don't know, man. It was really good. It pays fan service, but without being heavy-handed about it. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a lot of problem with fan service, where it's like, instead
Halloween
of going,
ends.
hey, if you're a fan, you kind of know this. Instead of being like, I feel like a lot of times you get, hey, you remember this? Mm-hmm. Well, in case you don't, we're just going to really remind you that this happened in another movie or something similar. It has the little things you expect from a Friday the 13th movie as well. What this did in just slightly over an hour is amazing. It feels like a proper conclusion to the Tommy Jarvis story. A good ending, unlike Halloween ends. I had to go there.
Yeah, of course.
I've watched it several times since. Vinny, if by chance you do listen, I've rewatched your scenes so many times. And when we get into the interview, I'll talk about my favorite line comes out of Rick. But Rick was fucking amazing in this.
I agree, man.
And I'm not trying to verbally fillet him because he's on our show today, but this feels like you could drop this into the series, and as well as the whole just Never Hike Alone series as sequels to 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
And I'd rather watch this than a lot of the other Friday the 13th movies, if I'm being honest.
Anything after 7, take it and put these there. That's how I feel.
Maybe even 7.
I like 7. Maybe just put 7.
7's okay.
7
too.
After these.
I have a love-hate with 7.
I love 7.
It's probably my least watched, actually, which is funny because Jason takes me in.
But he looks the coolest.
Up until Manhattan, because I don't even consider Jason X and
Jason Goes to Hell.
Jason. Yeah, when I'm talking about
Dead Jason, you mean?
Yeah, when I'm talking about I've watched the least, I'm talking about the original through Manhattan.
But 7 is the best looking Jason, you gotta admit.
It is pretty nice. I honestly, truthfully, don't have anything to complain about, or if I do, it's not anything that stuck out of my mind enough to comment. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I fucking love it.
Dude, it's really funny. I was trying to contain my my giggles from you saying your review because you said so much of what I said, and
really?
This is the only part of
this is the only thing we don't share with each other.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to the listeners out there, we share the script so we kind of know what ground we're covering, but we literally save our reviews personally until we talk about them. So if we don't like them, that's the juicy part, the discussion.
We're both hearing each other's review for the first time.
We don't want to pre-know each other's opinions, and then that takes away the argument or the discussion that we have. So
or just the natural reactions.
Correct. So this is what I have to say about the movie. I can't say, I don't want to say too much here because so much of my opinion
Well,
and
I
even
think
yours is in the interview. I'm not saying because of
yeah.
spoilers, just
Okay.
because of what we say in our opinions. We say a lot of our opinions when we talk to Vincent, but I think that this is an awesome climax and conclusion to the Tommy Jarvis storyline. I love the hospital scene. I love the cutscenes. I love the insert shots like the spider at the beginning. There's not much that I don't love about this movie. Of course, Tom Matthews, Vincent Guastafaro being back, that was fucking awesome. Put a smile on my face. I was comforted when I saw them despite the tense scenes. The gore and kills are top notch. I love this movie, for sure. This is how you end the story of a character with respect and dignity. You don't toss his ass in a fucking grinder like they did our boy Michael, R.I.P.
For now.
Yeah, but seriously, awesome movie, well made, for sure. This is the sequel to the fan film of all fan films, the one that got it right the first time and started the boom, so to speak, and it does not disappoint. Rating, 9.5 out of 10.
Holy shit! That's hilarious. I don't know if
It's like we basically it's like we copied each other's even though we never read it. That's
fucking,
awesome.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I guess now anything from here on, I mean, even with the interview, if you listen to that, it's going to be spoilers in there as well.
And there's no PPA, or not no PPA. Oh my God, the weed's talking.
Burn
There's
and
no
learn.
burn and learn because there's just so much interview.
Yes.
My God, so much interview. There's so much information in this interview that there is no burn and learn. There we go.
Yeah, so if you don't want anything else to be ruined, which I don't think we really ruined anything, just stop the episode now and go watch it on YouTube. It's free.
Yeah.
But okay, so we could get into some more spoiler stuff. Dude, fucking Rick. I know we talk about it in the interview, but dude, that fucking hospital scene and Vincent brings it up as well, dude. When Tommy's like, you don't know what you're dealing with, he's like, it's the other way around. And he pulls out the second gun and he just starts just shooting. What's
what I
it? Suck
took away?
lead, fuckhead.
Yeah, suck
dude,
lead.
I started laughing so much.
My kid was in the kitchen. Abel was in the kitchen when I was watching it. He goes, "Oh, bad words."
Dude, it's funny you used the word in your review, comfort, because that's exactly what I thought of now. Like, dude, I don't know what it was, even though we got a little bit of it before, but just the two of them at the camp when Rick shows up, dude, I'm just this is so fucking awesome.
Just being dicks to each other.
Yeah.
Just like it was just the
You
hilariousness of it. Yeah. Dude, I cracked up so hard at that, you dick.
Dude, and the fucking you bang, we get the you bang from
Yes, we
Tom
do.
this time.
Yeah, well, when Vincent literally goes out with a ya bang, like fucking awesome, dude.
Oh,
I want to say real quick, I loved his fucking glasses. I don't know if that was part of his wardrobe or his actual eyeglasses, but those blue frames were fucking nice. I actually have to get glasses. So I told my wife, Sam, I said, hey, I was like, I think I'm going to get those, see if I can get some dark blue, like kind of see-through
We'll have
lenses.
to message Vinny.
Not
Like,
lenses, fucking frames. Jesus, the weed.
we'll have to message Vinny and see where he got them.
Yeah, right. You go to Simon I, my man?
I will say the one thing, and maybe I'll ask Vincent about it. I'm so mad when I was typing up my notes. There was a note that I wrote that I wanted to turn into a question.
Okay.
Was the audio in there, was that re-recorded, or was that pulled from Friday the 13th Part 6? Because there's kind of you hear the audio.
What, you bang?
No, I'm trying to think of it now, but when Tommy's having his flashbacks,
Okay,
and you
okay.
can just hear the voices in his
Oh,
head.
you mean like the back? Like you don't see the images, but you hear the sounds.
Yeah, you hear
Yes.
the sounds, and it's from
Yeah.
Part 6. But I didn't know if it was re-recorded or they were allowed to pull it from.
I know what you're talking
from
about
6. Dude, I saw it in my notes. I was like, "Fuck!" That was one of the questions I wanted to ask, but I'll probably just ask him before we put this out. But dude, I really, you and I both thoroughly enjoyed Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow. But I don't know, man, just something about just getting Tom and Vinny back in this film for the majority of it. It
really
just
tied
even
everything up.
put it to a higher level.
It really tied everything up. It really was the perfect, this is it. We got them back together one last time. We're going to end it kind of the way it should have ended, or at least in a way that we think it should have ended, and it is a better ending than what we got, because Tommy never really gets an ending. It just abruptly moves on to part 7.
I was just about to say that.
So,
yeah.
this actually ties up, instead of having just a loose end, this actually ties up a story and would have been a much more Much more better, follow up to part 6 for sure.
Yeah, man, this fucking weed just makes me forget what I
But
was
yeah,
going to talk
you
about.
listeners out there, if you never seen Never Hike Alone or this one and you're Jason fans, don't just think like, oh, somebody made this who's not like a Hollywood director, and they're not working for Paramount or New Line. Like, no, seriously, like this is like really, really fucking well done. And it's the Jason we're all familiar with. It's fucking awesome. It really is. And any Jason fan owes it to themselves to watch it. They're like an hour long, an hour 12.
And with the script, right, like you'll see characters, Last Jedi,
Yeah.
of characters come back that used to be in a series, and you're like, they feel different.
Oh, right. That's why you
Like-
said Last Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke.
Yeah. Everybody still talks about that, man. That shit's so
Josh
funny.
Josh is probably
We
fuming
literally
editing
just
this.
talked about this at work, about how much Luke Skywalker changed.
Like Josh, it's going to be in the group chat. He's going to be like, actually, this is why he fucking loves the Last Jedi.
Yeah, our producer Josh is not going to be happy.
How Drew loves Godzilla. That's Josh with Star Wars.
He will defend this movie, like,
But
tooth and nail.
yeah, the Tommy Jarvis and Rick felt like they walked right out of 1986 from Part 6. Like, nothing feels different. They still have the same interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and Rick gets an entire character arc,
Yeah, he
like
does.
storyline in this. He goes from still being the like, fuck you, Jarvis. And then when he finds out Jason's real, he completely
Yeah.
changes his tone.
Oh, don't get me wrong. He's scared as shit at first, but then he steps up to the plate and he makes up for being a dick all this time.
Wherever the red dot goes, you bang. But and like we got like a story of like everybody always complains about how's Jason get his power? Why is he able to keep coming back?
Yeah.
Get an answer to that, and it's not something that feels like a compared to Halloween again, like the Thorn. Oh, let's just make up this Thorn thing. Like,
No, they just took something that was already there and just kind of built off of
yeah,
that.
and it doesn't feel like, oh, you're forcing this. I don't like how this changes. Like, it fits naturally. But also, whatever the fuck inside Mrs. Voorhees' head, nasty as fuck.
Yeah, right. That like stringy shit. Yeah.
Dude, I also love the walk off the pier. As simple as it is, just a bloop, just straight drop, man.
And we get some Mrs. Voorhees foo. We even get a new actress playing Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
Jason's mom. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think we can add too much more.
We love the movie. Not both 9.5s out of 10. Go fucking watch it. And if you haven't,
Go watch it.
go watch it.
All right, I guess let's get into our interview with Vincent DiSanti. And today's guest last chatted with us about 2 years ago. We talked about the Never Hike series back then, and now we have Never Hike Alone 2 available now on YouTube. Vincent DiSanti, thank you again for being high on horror.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be here. Good to be back.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure to have you. We love the movies, and I wanted to tell you rather that we have to give you props. Never Hike Alone 2 was a love of labor. We know that. We talked to you before about the first one. You didn't get paid. It took years of your life to make. Was there ever a point after the success of the first film where you thought, maybe I bit off more than I can chew with doing another one?
Definitely like towards like the middle of this one, I would say that I started to feel that because of the types of challenges that we ran into. We ran into like basically everything that could have gone wrong went wrong from a scheduling standpoint, in the way that like originally we wanted to schedule the film so it was all happening at once. And the closer you can keep your rentals together and the longer you can extend your rentals, you save a lot of money that way. Like you can get like almost like a free week's worth of rentals if you rent everything out over 2 weeks versus just doing 1 week. But when our schedules got shifted around and, we moved to the next year, we were still trying to chase that schedule. And then all of a sudden, like the state of emergency took our first week of filming and like cut it right out. And so we had this like major week of filming that was like our camp week of filming, just lingering out there, like not at the point where we had the most money in the budget, where we had sort of the least money in the budget. So it was a very tough thing to be like, I don't know if we're going to be able to make it to the next payout, or like, are we going to get the money and time to get these things done? And it was a real labor of love and just like a lot of stress. I was like, this thing must have taken years off my life with the amount of stress I was going through to kind of get it done. And there's a lot of unknowns along the way, but that's sort of filmmaking. And it's just, this is it at a much larger degree because there was a lot more involved. With Never Hike Alone, there wasn't there was no one to let down, I guess you could say. Like, there were no high expectations. No one was ever going to expect Never Hike Alone to do what it did. And no one was really counting on that. They were like, if it was watchable for at least 10 minutes, there was probably going to be a victory. But now coming into this is like, people have expectations. I have expectations. I've been wanting to tell this story and I want to do it justice. And so it was like a real struggle to make sure that we got this film done in a way that served all of those wants and desires to get it done the right way. And in the end, very good team. We were able to work through it. But yeah, there were definitely moments where I was like, I wonder if we're going to make it. I wonder if this is it, if this is the death nail in what we were doing. And tomorrow I got to go tell everyone it's not going to happen. And then, lots of like last minute miracle saves and figuring things out and things coming through, and we're able to get it done. But it was a very stressful roller coaster ride to get this film completed.
Well, kudos on getting it done. Yeah, I'm not a filmmaker myself, but every commentary and book I've read has always said that filmmaking is like problem solving on the go. So, and you're doing it at an indie level. So kudos, because it was awesome and you did a great job. And also kudos on all the updates that you gave out. That was something that I took note of, because most crowdfunded projects will leave like donors in the dark for a while. And you never did that. There were like weekly emails, maybe sometimes a couple a week. You were always up front, sending out updates to everyone and letting them know the status of the film.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely important that we let people know what's going on. And there was a lot to, talk about. And there's also the avenue of the fact that like the campaign's still open. We still have to raise more money. And, our donors are our biggest voice. I mean, there's over 2,000, 2,500, 2,700 people that are out there that can be like a sounding board for us. So when we remind people the project is still going on and still needs help, it's not so much that people really need to come back, but if they post about it, or maybe we post something new that like, hey, I got a little bit more money. I'd love to get a mask now, or I'd love to upgrade to a VIP or an AP, or which some backers did. So it was definitely like staying in contact to let people know that we still needed support. And, the fans showed up because they wanted to see it happening. And then also showing, fans that there's progress, that they've invested, and here's where the progress is being put, whether it be the teaser that we shot and released earlier in the year in January, or just new artwork, or new photos from behind the scenes, or anything like that, just to let people know that like their money is being used for the right reasons, and it's turning into really good teaser imagery. And I think that that keeps people enticed and invested and keeps them amped. And I think that the response that we saw from the release of Never Hike Alone is that a lot of people were, kept informed, and they knew exactly when it was going to happen. And they showed up on that first week, and we shot up to over 1 million views in 8 days. And, it's just been, gaining steam and doing well ever since.
Was there anything you weren't able to shoot, or were you able to get everything into the film you wanted?
No, we weren't able to shoot everything. We originally had a stretch goal where we said we were going to do like a house party massacre scene, which sort of got, and we're going to go over this in one of the updates that are coming to say, hey, listen, we said a bunch of things, but let's see what we're actually able to do. The extra money that we raised ended up being the contingency money to get the core project made. But we did add an extra, I want to say 10, 12 pages of scenes and action and things that weren't in the original script that we originally bid out. So those kills that we were all going to kind of slam into that one scene sort of got pushed around. And we sort of did get like a montage kill scene within the hospital. So there was sort of our way to expand that scene a little bit. Like we were able to invest in that little moment. But there was one scene that I wanted to do that we'll announce sort of later on, but we kind of teased it and then backed off. It was like, hey, we're going to start taking names for the new thing. We wanted to get it together, but we were so far behind on that main camp scene, or the main camp sequences, that we had a shot for over a week, that by the time we got those shot at the end of June, we had 2 months to get more footage. We still needed to shoot the tent scene. We still needed to shoot like the walking off the dock scene and Larry's scene and all these other things. So there's certain things that I really needed to happen that could be done for a low budget. And at that point, with splitting the week up, we ended up spending most of the production money on that final week of shooting at the camp. So we were working with very little budget at that point, and I didn't want to put us at risk of doing something to say, hey, we're going to do this scene now, name 4 characters, and then those 4 characters, raise maybe $4,000. But am I going to have enough to do post-production and the scene and give my editor time enough to cut it? And the people that we're talking to about being in the scene, when is their schedule actually going to open up for them to be there? And it was really tough to get communication because there was a lot of things going on. And there was no guarantee that when we announced these names that it was going to raise the type of money that we needed, even though it's a pretty good bet. But at that point, with all of the challenge that we faced along the way, I didn't want to test it. I didn't want to push it anymore. I was like, we got enough. We got plenty. Our editorial is already backed up. We're already starting 2.5 months behind schedule and editorial. Kudos to Mike and the rest of the editorial team for being able to put this entire film together basically in 2.5 months. And that's ridiculous. I mean, our original plan was to start cutting in May and walk away from it at the beginning of June and then come back to it at the end of June with a fresh outtake and then recut it and then put it into post-production in the middle of July. And so it was a real, post, like VFX and color and all those things. And so we were really down to the wire. I mean, we exported the film, I want to say on October 11th was when we exported the version that went onto YouTube. In fact, there was another version that got exported on the 12th and then got uploaded on the 13th and literally finished maybe 20 minutes before it was time to release because we caught another error that we had to fix and do all those things. So but we wanted to honor that date. We knew that we could have pushed back. I could have pushed back till, November, December, and I could have shot that extra scene in September and maybe done those things. But we really wanted to make it a point to get to Friday the 13th and do something on Friday the 13th, knowing that next year we do have the option to cut all the pieces together into one master cut or to come up with some type of, master Blu-ray set or do something like that we can offer fans, thinking about doing 4K version, things like that. But if we raise enough during those periods, it's not to say that we couldn't take, $20,000 of that and go off and add that scene eventually, which would be sort of like the scene in the middle of the movie where it kind of, you show the lake, we pan down from the tree and Jason's walking by and we know he's making his way towards, the town, that there's a scene that could go there where Jason would basically murder a bunch of people in a campground. We wouldn't do the house party massacre. It was going to become the campground massacre. And I guess I'll just spoil it. We were going to get the crew from Dead Meat. They were going to play all the people. And so we were going to kill the entire Dead Meat crew and then bring in another special guest to play another park ranger. And it was going to be another 5 kill, Jason taking out people one by one in a really cool fashion. That probably would have added another 4 or 5 minutes to the film, which would have been really nice. But at that point, if we had tried to do that may have derailed us from being able to make the 13th. So at the end of the day, maybe we get to make that added in next year. But again, we walk away from the experience saying, you know what, we still got the story we wanted out of it. The real main beats of what the emotional part of it are there. 5 extra kills would have been nice, but hey, you know what? We still got double-digit kills. This is way more than we've ever done before with the Wompstomp production. And we made what we had count. So that's, that was what was important to me, that if we were going to do it, we have to do it with quality. And if we were going to do it and it was going to be substandard quality, it's no worth, and also put the film at risk. I don't want to, put the film at risk for something that's, if it goes in, it's still not going to be good enough anyway.
I was going to say that, you can tell that, you did I thought the first one was filmed incredibly well. And that was what I think a lot of people noticed from it, was that you watch a lot of fan films, and especially on YouTube and stuff, and you're like, what the hell? That's a backyard movie. Yours always seemed to have that smooth, polished production feel. And that's why I think it took off. And I noticed that right away with this one. I feel like your camera work got even better, and I can tell that you've been honing your camera work in those years since the first one. Did you find that in the time it took to make the sequel here that you were getting practice with the insert shots you were doing and stuff like that?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of those lessons were learned when we were making, Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow. Like you're in editorial, you know what you don't have. Like you're like, oh, you know what I could have really used? And then like that becomes a thing that in the next film, you're like, you know what I need? Actually, I'm going to get this now because I bit me in the ass last time to do that. And it is a culmination of that. And I've also had the opportunity to work on projects like Jason Rising and Pathosis, and we did Dylan's New Nightmare and a bunch of Halloween fan films and all these different things. And every time I've gone on to set, it's been an opportunity to try a new formula, try new things, set new things up, and just start to play with angles and kind of do those things. So I've definitely had a lot of practice to like really kind of figure things out, and then be on professional sets, see some of the shots that they're setting up on set and how they're executed, and some of the shot sequences that we do. And, like for a lot of the dialogue stuff that we started doing, it was basically from researching how they do dialogue coverage for a lot of TV shows and understanding like these are the main angles you want to get. These are going to give you the best options. And then with our crew, how can we replicate that type of production, sort of schedule with shooting, with doing it right. So it just ends up being, a little formulaic, but in that moment, you're really just looking at it from the standpoint of sizes of lenses. And then the fun part is once you get to set, finding what your actual frame is going to be. And then saying, okay, if this is our frame, here are our sizes, here are how we're going to go to do it. But I really do like the process of like getting on set, seeing the characters on set, pulling up a camera, seeing what I see in the lens, and then saying, okay, based on this environment, this is how we're going to cover it. This is the direction we're going to face. There's how the blocking is going to be. And that's when it all kind of comes together. Up until then, there's like a pretty good idea of how I want to do it. But until you're in the space, you can't really say like, it's got to be like this, because you have to be open to interpretation based on the limitations that a set will give you. And the opportunities that the set will give you as well.
And what was the hardest shot for you to pull off?
The hardest shot? That's interesting. Which one took us the most effort? That's a good question. I mean, there were a lot of challenging sort of like setups, but I don't know anything that was really sort of like, honestly, like getting Jason at the end of the movie was tough because there were so many moving pieces. We had to have like absolutely still water. It took a while to set that body down there, and then to get the rig to blow just the right amount of bubble out of the mask was sort of like, it was all kind of like piecing it there. What else was challenging? I mean, just everything that we shot up at the camp, that's everything them in the attic, and doing that first scene, that was really challenging because that was a logistical challenge, where that's the original camp from Never Hike Alone that has since had its road washed away. So it's a trickier climb to get up the hill. We literally had to dig out a river so we could actually cross it. And I actually found out where the river was being blocked by a bunch of debris. We cleared all the debris and we lowered the level of the river by like, I want to say 1.5 feet. Like we were literally all standing knee deep, and then we finally cleared all this brush, and all of a sudden it just dropped to our ankles, and we could suddenly drive across this river again. So that allowed us to get like one truck and one Jeep up the hill. We had to fit all of the equipment in there. People were walking up the hill. We were, all set up in the camp. And when we showed up there in the March of 2023, I mean, there were, people had partied up there. There was graffiti on the walls. There was, all sorts of trash. The set wasn't built. And we were walking up the hill at that point, and we walked through snow in the first time we went up there. And it took all spring and summer to get that camp ready for when we got, and I guess good thing we didn't shoot till June, because the camp wasn't ready in April. We still had way more work to do up there. So the extra time ended up paying off, and we were able to rebuild out that set, which ended up being pretty cool. But yeah, that entire thing was a challenge. And then the other challenge was a lot of the like shooting up at the hospital. We had to deal with like an actual working ambulance station that we had to get out of the way when the ambulance pulled up. So we'd have like an entire setup ready to go. We'd be ready to do a setup, and they'd be like, "Hey, an ambulance is on the way." So we'd have to move our ambulance, pull down all our lights, send them in. They would do it. They would, like, one time they took like an hour and a half And we just had to sit there and sort of like be like, oh, okay, like we only have 3 shots left and we could finish up. Like, can we just sneak in and get these shots, please? And eventually, the night went longer than we wanted it to, but those were the types of things that were there. Everything else, there were challenging shots for sure, but I want to say that like everything was built in the sense of that we knew we had to move. And we knew that we couldn't do any big setups. Like I had to very hand pick my jib shots. I had to hand pick some of the bigger moves that we had to do, but everything else had to be really sort of like Evan as the human tripod handheld, but putting him in the right position that even though we were handheld, it still was in the right sort of order of operation that still felt that it had the scope and the scale that it needed. Even the drone shots too, like they were all designed out to be a very specific way. It was a very, like after doing the first Never Hike Alone, it was very much like, let's just go shoot a bunch of stuff and just pick the best stuff. This time it was like, no, the first shot is this, the second shot is this, the third shot is this. I know exactly where to get that angle. Like, where he drives under the bridge, I was like, we're driving over there. The curve, like I knew I wanted to go to the curve, exactly where we did the first part. I had that stuff all figured out. So that stuff was like very meticulously handcrafted.
And do you have a scene that you're most proud of?
I'm a big fan of the tent scene because it really is
That's a
like
good one.
old school Friday the 13th. It's our only real like true blue Friday the 13th scene, I would say, as far as like classic movies. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted a chance to at least do a little bit of classic Friday because the rest of it's mostly a battle film. So that was a lot of fun. 2 good friends of mine, Adam and Kaylee, who came out and played Gino and Jamie. And I just liked Jason's introduction to the movie sort of thing. His first kill is kind of nice. You get to see the bone fragments in the back of, Gino's head and then cutting out of that scene into I call it the jelly cut is one of my favorite moments. It's a nice like moment of like levity. And it sort of calls back to like when the dog runs up to Jason and then it cuts to the hot dog on the grill, like just very much calling back some of those old Friday the 13th cuts, which were a lot of fun. So I really like that scene. I'm proud of that one. And I'm also proud of like in the dramatic sense, the scene between Rick and Tommy, I'm really proud of at the beginning of the movie, and the scene between Tommy and Anna when she's outside of the hospital. I call it the Romeo and Juliet scene. It was just one of those scenes that was like, man, this is just like, I've never seen like a horror movie with blocking and staging like this, where it's like, it actually feels kind of natural and nice without being so like stagnant of just everybody standing eye level with each other. It was one of my favorite, and that was the one we had to wait for the ambulances a bunch of times. But that's definitely one of the scenes I'm most proud of as well.
And you actually take Jason out of Crystal Lake for a little bit. It works really, really well, but most time in the mainline series, it's not usually received well. Was there any hesitation on your part to kind of do that?
No, I knew that I wanted Jason to take Crystal Lake. Like, I think that's one of you got to look at the things that people want to see. And I think Jason wreaking havoc within Crystal Lake is sort of something we've wanted to see. We've also seen him at Wessex County Medical before. Although we're sort of playing like Wessex County Medical as a kind of as like a care provider. Like out here we have South Coast Health or like something like that, where like they own a bunch of hospitals. It's kind of like one branch. And that was like the Mountain branch. Because it's obviously not the same hospital. That other one was a little bit more, ground level and stuff like that. But that like him coming into the hospital setting, major Halloween 2 vibes, like definitely one of my favorite movies. So yeah, I mean, I never had any doubts about that. I knew it would work. And I thought it would be cool to see Jason let loose in a hospital in a small hallway with a bunch of people, which would be a lot of fun. And that was one of the sequences I really look forward to shooting the most, because I knew that, whether you agree with Jason coming to town or not, like when he gets into that hospital, I think everyone would be like, you know what? I don't mind.
And you actually did use a familiar Jason trope of the walking into the lake. How do you accomplish that shot?
The one where I just power walk off the end of the dock.
Yep, and just keep going.
One take, man. We only had one take to get that right. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I had one other jacket I probably could have thrown on, but yeah, it was me and Ben Meredith, the second unit DP. We went down there. Our light broke right away. And so we had to shoot it all natural light, and we were like right at twilight, right at dusk. His camera does some pretty good low light stuff. We opened up opened up the iris as far as we could to just let in as much light, and then shot it at just the right time where we were able to get it at a time where the moon was in the air and there was enough light in the sky, but we could color it in a way that wouldn't feel like you're shooting day for night. Like it wasn't like a bright sunlight day that all of a sudden looks blue and never looks right. Like we were actually able to kind of do the right things. But it was, again, that was a very meticulously thought out scene where I had gone to that dock. It was in Flagstaff, Arizona, actually. And sort of walked around that area and said, okay, I need to figure this out in like 3 shots. How do I do this? Okay. Walk by the sign, establish that you're at a dock, walks down the thing. And then I was really inspired by Matt Reeves' The Batman, where he just has all these shots where like the camera just travels behind Batman, like just shoulder. It's just like a shoulder, like a medium close up, but from behind. And it's just following from behind him, just his imposing shoulders sort of traveling through the frame. And we see everyone's reaction of what they see when they see his face, but we don't see his face yet, which I think is a pretty cool moment. I just thought it was a good angle. So I tried to use that with Jason in a few different areas where I thought it would be really interesting, and the lake being one of them. And so walking off into the dock. And I think that was just always such a cool idea of like, oh crap, I know they're going back to the camp. I sort of know what they're up to. Like the whole thing is that like Jason knows that if like the location of his mother's head is like out, that's a bad thing. And that if, they've escaped, he needs to get back home because he needs to get back into a protective mode. So for him to walk all the way back would take too long. And the fact that there's a dock right down by the hospital, that he would just walk down, drop into the lake and travel across the lake and sort of meet them there at the same time, which I don't know. It's like, this is Jason's element. He can work well in the water. If Ghost Jason was ever in that Friday the 13th video game, he'd have a high water ranking and he would move pretty fast underwater. And he's pretty nifty under there. He's got a few water kills over the series. So I think it was pretty on point. And then obviously that leads into the opposite end of that scene, which is him walking out of the water, which was a lot of fun to shoot. I would say that's another one of my favorite scenes where we sort of had one night in the schedule where we didn't have to do a ton of stuff. And that was just one of the few things that we had to do. Like we shot the end of the movie during the day. And then I said, hey, instead of shooting everything tomorrow night, why don't we stay late for the day? And then we'll shoot in the afternoon. And then with our second 6 hours after lunch, we'll just shoot the shit out of him walking out of the water, because it's such an important scene for like visually for fans, that if we can really just not rush through it and come up with different angles and ideas, like let's see what we can get. Let's shoot this thing in high frame rate, which means we need an extra light and things like that. So that was definitely like a big one. But I don't know, it was all in just sort of like connecting how Jason works, what his tools are, what his powers are, and just putting those on display as in any way that we could in the film. And him walking, it's funny, I love seeing the comments of people like, I love when he just power walks off the dock. I'm like, that's cool, because it's such a small thing, but at the same time, it's like, we've only seen Jason do that a few times. Like we saw him like blast into the water in part 6 when he goes after Tommy, but there's something about like, I'm going to skip all that stuff. I'm just going to walk right off the end like Aquaman and just drop right in.
Well, speaking of you playing Jason and the water shots, Brian Forrest also played Ghost Jason. So I wanted to ask you, what dictated who played Jason and when?
Schedule and technicality.
Okay.
And how many shots we had to get done in a night, how technical were the shots, how much of it was stunt work versus my work. So if it was a high volume stunt night, just put Brian in the costume and let him do everything. You know what I mean? Like there's no need to play ego trips where I need to go in and be like, okay, just hand me the machete and let me do the one thing. Like, so
you were hogging all the good shots. It wasn't about that.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I did hog a few. I mean, I did get the Rick head crush. I did get to kill. And then there are nights like we did Adam and Kaylee's scene. And one of the reasons why I liked that night, because that was like a 12-person crew, even less maybe. And I got to play Jason and director at the same time. And, that way that I just come out of the woods and stalk Adam before I kill him, and just sort of some of the imposing stuff and the way I move, and just being able to establish at the beginning of the movie Jason's movements. Even the scene with Kyle, that's me in the costume where you see me in the GoPro. And then from there, it starts to slowly recede. Like that's mostly Brian, if not all of Brian in the ambulance scene. The interior hospital scenes are a little bit of a mix. It's me and Brian sharing roles. I definitely did take that massive like Renaissance painting angle where I got the machete because I just had that vision in my head of how Jason should be standing the entire time. So I was like, let me get in there for this part. I did the kill with all that stuff. I did the walk in, carried the head through the head. Brian did a lot of the fighting. So anytime there's fighting, Brian's usually in there because Jess doesn't really like me to be around like things that are swinging around and, you know, I could potentially get hurt, things like that. But, you know, so like him coming out of the water, you know, that's Brian attacking Kyle. But once the machete hits the face, then it becomes me because I had to do all of the emotional sort of like pulling of the head. How does it fit in the hand? The crumbling through the hands, which I practiced with Cody, the effects artist who designed that head. And then, you know, once it goes back into more of the effects stuff, then I step back out. Brian goes back in for when a machete is going to be swung at somebody's neck. And then the dummy goes in. So there's like a good system of like how we balance it back and forth. And, you know, that's why, I mean, for this one, that's why I really gave Brian like a 50-50 credit on it because he's done close to 50% of the work the entire time. And it's funny because people will give me pictures of that. I know it's Brian and I'm like, I don't want to ruin the mystique for them, but this is Brian. You know, and I've never tried to take any credit from him. Like he does a great job as my double and he's, you know, at the end of the day, he is sort of doubling the moves that we come up with. You know, that's Brian getting wire pulled and shot with a shotgun by the ambulance. You know what I mean? And that's him walking along the side of the ambulance. So, you know, kudos to him for taking all the stuff that's like super dangerous. I just try to go in there for like the stuff that's like, it's the real nuanced stuff. And, you know, being able to do like, you know, just the sequence of like not only crushing Rick's head, but like also the way he's pushed over and turning around. I did the walk off the dock. I did the walk out of the water. So anytime it's like very just like Jason out in the open doing his thing, that's why I love to get in the costume because I love to play Jason just on his own. And then when there's a lot of fighting, that's when Brian's in there because he's the one who knows how to move with stunt actors or an actor when there are weapons flying around. So it's very much a tango that we both know how to dance. We each have our strengths and weaknesses and we play off each other really well with it.
And I got to say, it was great seeing Tom and Vinny back as Tommy and Rick, respectively, and just their banter back and forth. Mm-hmm. Was that all writing? Was there any ad-libs with them?
I mean, they embellish. It's all there on the page. I really give the actors more of like a template to follow through. And then if there's a line that's not working for them, to just make sure they get the meaning out with their words. But I want to say that, you know, Tom and Vin really just mostly stuck to the script. I can't say, I mean, one time I actually ruined a take by accident because Tom, and the line's in the movie, but I messed up his next line in that sequence where he's like, but I fucked it up. And I was just like, yes. I was like, that's exactly how I wanted it. And he saw me just go like, yes, like that out of the corner of his eye and he got distracted. But it was just like, you know, there were certain moments where like, yeah, I was threading some old Tom McLaughlin dialogue from part 6 through the thing because, you know, they're the same characters. They have the same, you know, vocabulary, the same vernacular. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that it was that's part of their character and who they are. And I want to give that back to the fans. That's part of like, you know, there's a good way to do fan service and there's a bad way to do fan service. And you got to just put things in so they feel like it's naturally coming out of their mouths. And so, yeah, they were all, you know, big troopers about doing that. You know, obviously, Vinny, we needed to get a good ya-bang in there for him. And I think that like, the ya-bang, you know, he went out with a ya-bang, that's for sure. But, you know, it's one of those moments where you got to let people shine. Yeah, I mean, everybody basically stuck to the words that were on the page, for better and worse. But you know, it was their ability to just bring those words to life and act as they were real people. And that's what made them work.
Yeah. And talking about Rick Cologne, the character arc you gave him in this film was great. It's amazing what you were able to accomplish in just over an hour. And he's not even in the full hour, but, every scene Rick was in just like put a huge smile on my face. And like, that's not even a question. That's just a compliment. Vinny's just so great.
Yeah. He was so funny.
He is.
Yeah. And then I remember being
the suck lead fuckhead. That's a great one.
Oh, okay. So that's an ad lib right there. That's an ad lib because I said, Vin, I just like we were trying to come up with stuff on the fly. And Vinny's just such a master at that stuff. And I was just like, Vin, I just want you to be as vulgar and just demeaning as possible. Just come up with whatever you want to call him, like you mummy faced, and just like all this stuff. And like we were just dying at the like we're just trying not to laugh the entire time. Just let him go. That way we had something fun to like pepper that scene with that was very Rick-esque. And that it wasn't boring. And then we did some stuff in ADR too that we kind of threw some stuff in at the end. But yeah, I mean, Rick just brought. I mean, Vin was very excited about bringing Rick back to the screen. He was not super happy about getting, finally meeting his match. But I feel like you said, his arc is nice because he realizes the mistake he makes, and then it's his sacrifice that allows our heroes to make it to the next leg of their journey. And he goes out like a champ. And I gotta say, like, maybe I think my favorite line in the movie is when Tommy says, "You don't know what you're dealing with," and he goes, "I think it's the other way around." I just think it was like the greatest action movie.
That whole scene with Rick is just amazing.
Just so good. And the way he pulls it out, and he just nailed it. He knew exactly what I was going for. Yeah, and I know that Rick wrote me a nice Vin wrote me a nice email a couple days ago, and he's just having a lot of fun seeing the response and seeing the people love Rick, and I've seen his people have like screenshotted or like done like the watch cast or whatever of his kill, and they put it online and stuff like that. And to see people react to it and get that big of a reaction, I told them that it would be worth it. I mean, like, hey, when there's a kill count on this, there's no way you're not like the best one. You know what I mean? So just be happy that like you're Jason's final kill. Like you're the last kill Jason ever gets. So he almost got Tommy, but you are the final. You're the cherry on top, Vin.
And Larry Zerner is the mayor. How did Larry Zerner get involved?
So I met Larry many, many years ago before Never Hike Alone was even popular. It was before I think we had just released our first or second trailer, and I had met Larry at a screening of Friday the 13th Part 3D in Hollywood in early 2017. And, just got to meet him there. Then Never Hike Alone came out, got a little bit popular. I met Larry again when I went to go visit Tom Matthews at Mad Monster, Arizona, and he and Larry had booths by the side of one another. So I was sitting by Tom, and I was between the two of them, and, just striking up conversation, got to hang out for the weekend. Pretty cool meeting. I met Larry again when I went to go see the Friday the 13th video game being made. That's another time I met Larry. It was before Mad Monsters. This was before Never Hike Alone was released. I met him when they were doing some mocap, and we had talked a little bit about that. And I said, "Hey, Larry, we had actually met before. I was the guy in costume at the screening." He said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And then when I met him at Mad Monster, I was like, "I was the guy at the mocap thing. Remember me?" He's like, "Oh, I remember that." And then over the years, like, I've had a few legal things that I've like emailed Larry about. I've obviously seen Larry doing his thing online. We had talked in passing at a few teams. In fact, I saw Larry again at the Friday the 13th, the game launch party, which is really cool. So like we have bumped into each other many times over the years, and we're aware of who we are. And he always asks me about how things are going with Never Hike Alone. And I had emailed him sometime last year, and I said, "Hey, Larry, when we get to this thing done, I want you to play the mayor. I want it to be a secret. I want you to be the secret cameo for the movie. Would you be interested in doing it?" He'd be like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'd totally be down." And it just so happened that he was the last person that we filmed. We filmed that scene almost a week before release.
Oh, wow.
And we had gone so deep in our schedule that we didn't anticipate that SAG was going to strike. And SAG struck, and all of a sudden we hit Larry up, and he was like, "Listen, man, like I need a SAG interim agreement if I'm going to do this, because I can't cross the picket lines." And so we literally hounded SAG for like a month and a half every day, emailing them until we got an answer and got our interim agreement. And we were one of the films listed on the deadline report of SAG's interim agreement acceptance list. Just to get Larry. Like we went through hell to get Larry, but I knew again that that's the thing that, they watch the movie. For a second, they think Tommy's going to die. And then all of a sudden, Tracy Savage shows up. But, we've met Tracy before in Never Hike Alone. Like, yeah, that's expected. Of course, Vin brought Tracy back to be the news. Wait, Larry Zerner. So it's a nice sort of thing that just catches people off guard in the right way. And it pays homage to the franchise because Larry really has been a champion for fans all the way through the lawsuit. And I don't know, he just seemed like, if I could think of one mayor of Friday the 13th, that seems to be the guy who I would hire. You know what I mean? Like Larry seems the most sensible person who would take that podium. I think, like, he's a lawyer. He knows what he's doing with the legal system. He fights for, people's rights. Like, he's a good guy. He's a little bit like, we joked about it. He's like, so what am I telling people here? Like, do I know that there was like a Jason Voorhees running around murdering people? I'm like, you're not really letting that information out publicly. You're trying to figure out what happened here. And we kind of jokingly throw that to the side in the credits where you see a headline pop up where it's like sheriff's incompetence causes mass murder or something like that. Where we lean into it. We know that's what happened, but that's the mistakes that they're making. And these are the consequences that are happening. And that's why we have a Friday the 13th franchise. If this was a sheriff station that was on top of it, we wouldn't have these films.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, like, now that it's all said and done, man, what does it mean to you as a filmmaker and a Friday the 13th fan to take these characters that you and all of us fans grew up watching and to give them a different ending than they were originally given, a proper send-off, if you will? What does that mean to you, and how does that rank in, like, your favorite things you've done in life? Because I know if that were me, I would be like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever done.
I mean, so far, this is, one of the greatest accomplishments I've ever achieved in my life. This has been a 7-year journey. This has been a lot of time. I mean, I started this when I was 33. I turned 40 last week. And I've been working on this for a long time against people saying, why are you making fan films? Why aren't you doing original stuff? Like, can't you be doing anything better with your time? I hope you get sued. You have no business doing this, blah, 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 like all this stuff. And like, it's not that it's like the majority of the voices, but they poke through and you're sort of sitting there like, man, who's shit in this person's coffee this morning? Like, I'm not hurting you. I'm not keeping money out of Victor Miller's pocket or Sean Cunningham's pocket. They're doing very well doing that to themselves by not creating more material. And they're doing it even worse to themselves because they're not hiring me to make material for them right now. These could be Friday the 13th films released in theaters that people would go see. And if I had the budgets that they could get, if this was an official film, these films would be even better. And we'd have multiple house party massacres in these movies. But, I think that like, it really is perseverance. I was taught at a very young age, don't quit. Like, if you start something, see it through to the end. And obviously, like, if this was going to cost me my life or, this was just going to take it too far, obviously I would have had to bow out. But, it took the pandemic didn't stop us from doing this. Severe delays didn't stop us from doing this. Big financial hurdles didn't stop us from doing this. I was supported by a very, between my family and my crew and the actors and the campaigners and the backers and all of those things. Like, I felt compelled that like I owed it to everybody who invested in me to see it through to the end. And I wanted to do that. And I knew that when I got to the peak of the mountain, that it would be worth it, that I wouldn't want to climb this high and then turn around right before I got to the upper echelon. Plus, I was explaining to people, like, what other opportunity in my life am I going to have to actually bring back Tom Matthews and Vinny Guastafaro and put them on screen together and have that connectivity to the franchise and connect it to my fan film and have the opportunity to tell this specific story? Because this is sort of the elements you need to tell this specific story. I can't come with a dollar store general Tommy, 10 years later, who's like, he kind of looks like Tom Matthews, right? It's just not going to be the same. I know we went through 3 other Tommies, but like, Tom basically cemented himself as Tommy and he appeared in the first film. I always wanted to work on a Friday the 13th film. I haven't gotten that opportunity yet, but I got to make my own. It's not official, but in some history books, it will be a footnote and it will just sort of hang on and dangle there. And that's sort of cool. It's not, winning a Nobel Prize. I haven't cured cancer. I haven't done anything that's really going to benefit society that greatly. But in my little corner of the world, for something that I'm very passionate and I love, Friday the 13th. And as a fan who's been, just disappointed since 1993. I think that, that I made it for the kid. I made it for the kid who sat there on the day that, Jason Goes to Hell came out, and I watched Jason get blown up in front of my face, and then with it, the entire franchise, and it hasn't been the same since. And it felt like I was putting something back together that was broken. And although it is a fan film and it's not, the upper echelon of, production value, I know that we did get really, really close. I know what our limitations are, but at the same time, we did pretty friggin' good for, the budget that we had. And I think overall, what people are really resonating with is the fact that this is the type of storyline they would have wanted to see from the studios. This isn't just some, like, concocted fan film storyline where it's going off in 50 different directions that don't connect in any way. Like, this was like a very poignant, like, oh no, this all actually ties right back into things that we've been watching for all these years and picks up all these story threads that we've been waiting for them to pick back up and runs with them to the finish line. And I mean, that's really what it felt like. It felt like somebody else had climbed up to the top of the mountain, only got so far, and then turned around and gave up and started climbing a new mountain that no one wanted them to climb. And we just went, okay, we're going to finish this thing. We're going to get it to the top, and we're going to create the end of the Paramount, era that we really, really wanted. So, this was a crazy adventure. I wasn't supposed to be able to do this. I was only trying to get one movie out, and I was just trying to make it look, just some type of proof from the pudding that I could do this. And the fact that, this became my career for the last 7 years, this has been the most important priority in my life. I took this, this gig over big jobs. I sat at home and crowdfunded instead of, taking a line producer position at some animation company, or, going and working as a production manager, or, being a layout supervisor, or doing all these things that I could have done that would have made me pretty good money and, put me on, I would have been fine right now. But like, I did all this, and now there's recognition for it. Like there's a reward at that end of the tunnel that now people are watching the movie. It got 1 million views in about a week. It's sending waves out there to just say that, like, people are calling this their favorite movie of the year, of everything that's come out, which is a big compliment. And so, like, just to be in that conversation, to have people compelled to say those types of things, it fills me with confidence to know that, like, yes, I took a big risk. A lot of people would look at this journey that I've been on and go, like, no effing way. I'm not giving up all these comforts. I'm not, giving up my life and my apartment and my job to go make some film that's not going to make me any money. Like, I got on the other end of it and said, no, like, if anything, I may be at a point right now where I have to build my life back up. I have to go get a new job. I have to go get all these things. But you know what? The type of jobs I'm going to be able to get now, because I can say, hey, in the last 7 years with Womp Stomp Films, we've raised over $800,000, completed 13 different productions of both fan films and original films. All of them have gone on to be film festival award winners, play around the world. We've garnered over, millions of views on the thing, and we've built our own production company. Like, yeah, I can come in and I can run your editorial coordinating department pretty easily and feel confident to know that, like, not only can I go back into a job, focus on the task at hand, I don't have that burning sensation in me that's like, hey man, you got to go out and do something with your life. You got to go make your mark. It feels like I was able to make a mark. I was able to do the thing that say, hey, you know what? Maybe a few dozen people will remember this in 20, 30 years, and enough people will do it where, like, if they research Friday the 13th enough, they'll discover us. And I did the thing that I really, really wanted to do. And now everything else that I do from now on is going to be out of pure passion, and I'll do it on my own schedule. I'm not in a rush. I don't feel compelled that if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. I now have faith that, like, no, time isn't an enemy. Time is my friend. The more time I have to work on something and polish it and really run it through, none of that matters how long it takes when you get to the end of it. And it's a project that people like and that people want to see, and that is out there for people to see. So if it takes 2 years, if it takes 4 years, whatever it does, if you've put your heart and soul into it and you're able to find the balance in your life to do other things as well, at the end of the road, no one cares how long it took to make. No one cares what, release date you hit. All it matters is it's good. And that's what's important to me, is that the time I invested ended up being something that, like, I didn't spend all this time and then, like, 10 people watched it. Like, that would be devastating. Like, not even my own backers watched it. Like, what the hell? Like, that would be hard. So to have this to be like, you know what? All of this investment in time has been worth it because the results show me that I'm on the right path. I'm pursuing a career, and that's very, very hard, but I'm putting down the groundwork to say that I have the skills to do it. And every time I go out and do one of these things, I learn more. I look back at the project I've just made. I think, what a dummy. I would have made it this way. And I'll go and I'll make my next film and I'll say the same thing to, my future self will say the same thing to the one that's stepping up. And I'll just keep getting better and better. I mean, even Scorsese will say the same thing. He's still learning as he's going. And I want to do this till I'm very, very old. And hopefully one day I'll be able to do it with kids and family and pass this knowledge on. But for now, I'm just really excited that this journey has really shaped me as far as who I am as a director, who I am as a producer, who I am as a filmmaker, and has really granted me, I think, this amazing opportunity that I can't be thankful enough, because if it wasn't for Friday the 13th fans believing in this, I would have never had this chance to do this.
Yeah, man. And, all the more congratulations to you for pulling it off, and, how much, work you put into it. And I think you're kind of discrediting yourself a little bit when you said you hope it's a little bit of like at least a footnote in the series, dude. Like John and I told you with the first one, we think that these movies, especially with the second one, these are better than some of the actual fucking movies. Like I would pick these two movies over several of the original movies. And I think that I go to horror cons 3-4 times a year, and I actually heard of Never Hike Alone from people at horror cons. I didn't hear about it online. I came into the first one a little later, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you actually kind of showed everybody this is how, like, fan films aren't a joke. Like, if you do it right, this is how you do it. And that kind of started the whole boom. After Never Hike Alone, there was all the other movies of Jason, and then there's Michael, and there's Fred. Everybody just seemed to say, hey, I want to make a movie. And that all started or kicked off after the popularity from this one, man. And I think, you did a fucking beautiful job. And, I'm glad that you are so happy, and, that it means as much to you as it does, because you definitely have some shit to be proud of, like, with that. And it's gonna last for sure. Like, I would not be surprised if when you put 2 on Blu-ray and all that, if Arrow Video or Scream Factory don't end up trying to squeeze that into like the next box set with the actual movies. Like, that would be really fucking cool.
That'd be really nice. I really did want to. Yeah, I wanted to try and get some of them in there for the last box set, and I just missed the deadline. I'm kind of upset because there was somebody who I'm pretty close with, or at the time I was pretty close with, who knew that you could submit stuff and they were looking for stuff, and he didn't tell me. He submitted his own material, but he didn't tell me that, like, we had stuff that we could have submitted and they might have thought about it. And when I submitted it, they were like, oh, we were thinking about doing fan film stuff, but we didn't end up doing it. And I was like, so, there's definitely like a missed opportunity, but I've talked to Peter Bracke. He said that if he ever does like an addendum to Crystal Lake Memories, that there is going to be an addendum for the dark years, the year of the fan film. And you reminded me of a funny quote that I told Cecil Laird when he was doing Dylan's New Nightmare, because I got to work on that as well. It was like, after Never Hike Alone, it was just like everybody was like, well, if that guy could do it, I could do it. And all of a sudden everybody was making their own Friday the 13th fan film. But I remember like sitting there, and I don't know, there was like 3 fan films that were announced in 1 week. And I just turned to Cecil and I was like, in a world where everybody's making a Jason Voorhees fan film, make a Freddy fan film. Because it's the only way you're going to be able to stand out now, because now they're all going to start blending together. I mean, like, you have a few that like kind of earn their own place within the community because they were there first. I mean, there were, I want to say, when we started, it was me. I remember, Cody Falk was out there doing some work, and then Tony and his team were working on a film that ended up kind of falling off to the wayside. And then, you had Mythos and Vengeance kind of make its way up. And then I met the Jason Rising guys. And then it was just, as soon as it started to just bubble, it was like his name was Jason, and Here Comes the Night. And, Friday the 13th, actually credit to Friday the 13th Legacy, Josh Schultz and that team from Arizona, they released on the same day of Never Hike Alone, not knowing Never Hike Alone was going to come out. So both of them came out on the same day. But hey, Friday the 13th Legacy has like 45 million views. So they've definitely found an audience, obviously. And I think with the name, definitely were able to sort of catch people's attention right away. So there's other ones out there. I just think that Never Hike Alone was the one that broke another type of echelon, which was press and media. And being able to rise up and be, like we, at first it was Friday the 13th franchise, which other fan films had made it there, but Friday the 13th franchise sort of put us on the map. But the minute we went to Bloody Disgusting, things started to pick up pace. And then when we did Telluride Horror Show, that's when it was like Birth Movies Death, and Bloody Disgusting did it again. And we were in Horror Hound magazine, and we started to really hit trades that never gave fan films the time of day. And I think that that's really what opened up the door for other fan films to now market themselves. So now you could contact Bloody Disgusting with a Friday the 13th fan film because they know that's going to draw attention, negative, positive and negative. You're going to get a positive people who just want Friday the 13th stuff. And then you're going to want people, like, especially in Bloody Disgusting, to go up there and be like, how the fuck are they getting sued? Like, why are they, where's the cease and desist? It's like, how am I hurting you, sir? Please show me on the doll where I'm hurting you. Like, and so you get that, but I think that that's really where it was. And I was worried for a while that there would be a fatigue, that if you had too much of it, that eventually it would die out. And I was really worried about sort of like, I want to do this big thing, but people are going to be like, I can't donate to my 10th Friday the 13th fan film here, like whatever. But we ended up earning that spot to sort of be like, what, if I'm going to donate to one, I'm donating to Womp Stomp Films, that's for sure. And maybe one or two other ones. But we sort of just worked hard to make sure that people couldn't say no to us, because we were delivering material that was at a high level, that was interesting and new, but didn't ruin it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to play a very fine line there. You can't, you want to do new things. You don't want to do the same old shit, but you can't start making things up like Jason Goes to Hell, because then you start losing people in the audience. And that's when you start venturing into the world of fan film. And, that was definitely a line that we had to play when we were doing the Jason Rising project, because that was definitely outside the box of like normal Friday the 13th, but somehow, some way, it's just that instinct. I think that's just like, what? I know this is pushing it, but it's, if you relate it to the fact that, in Friday the 13th, the video game, Jason's mother's head's flying around, like there is sort of a lore in this world that we can draw from that's not too crazy, that we've seen before. So there's lots of things like that, where as long as you're paying respect, and I think you come with something interesting and fresh, and the kills are good, and the story's not like, you don't want to cross your eyes halfway through and be like, what? Like, what is happening? You're going to have good success. And the real trick to it is like, as big or small as you go, just keep it simple. Keep the story very straightforward and simple. Like, Never Hike Alone story is very simple. Like, when you go back and look at it, everything's everyone's arcs are very well laid out. We don't deviate from them. We don't just cut away to like random stuff and have random side missions. It's like everybody's story is feeding into someone else's story, and it all plays out in the end. And so, I think when people are writing films, they realize that like they're the king of the castle. You know what I mean? Like, there's no one who can tell them no. So they can come up with any idea they want, and they're the smartest person in the room because, hey, it's their project. But you have to have that self-reliance, and you have to have people around you who aren't going to let you, lemmingly walk off a cliff. I think the worst thing that you can have on set are people who've been like, oh yeah, that's good. Everybody just gives you a thumbs up. You want people to be like, like there's a better way to do this. Or, I was reading the script and I'm just not seeing what you're trying to do here. And you that challenge you. And, at the end of the day, like not every idea that you have in your head is the best idea in the world. And you got to be able to self-filter it out and look at it and be like, am I writing this for the audience or am I writing this for me? And even though we want to make films for us, and I know a lot of directors will say like, don't worry about an audience, just make a film for you and let it find its audience. It's like, no, I know what my audience wants. I'm here to put this together for them, to entertain them, not myself. It's not for an audience of one. It's for an audience of as many eyes as I can get on this thing as possible, because I want people to enjoy it. And Jason is not mine. Like, Jason isn't a character that I came up with. I have no carte blanche to change anything about him in any way that's going to upset fans to make it better for me. I have to make changes, or I have to add things to his character that fans are going to want to get behind. So it's a challenge. And so that's sort of like the difference here with like being an auteur, where you're just like, I'm just doing my artistic vision and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can do that. But like when no one watches it, it's because it's made for an audience of one. But when you make it when you understand who your audience is or who you're making it for, or like just being a good audience member yourself and knowing what are the types of things that when you've gone to films that have made you feel something, you have to be able to take that, learn from it, and then learn how to replicate it and say, okay, these are the formulas in order to tell these types of stories and get these types of emotions out so people are really connecting with the characters. It's really that's the difference between the fan films that stand out and the fan films that, like, you know, for all intents and purposes, it's a fun weekend in the woods with your friends, and you guys are messing around and you're having fun. Maybe you got a few cool kills, but, like, you know, if you're not putting in the time and dedication like us, don't get mad at me when you're not getting the plays that, like, a Never Hike Alone is getting if you've only taken it so far. But that's the journey. Like, my views started very low and I had to work all this time to get up to here, and everyone needs to sort of, like, get on their own track and, I guess, pave their own path.
Yeah, that's and all the more respect to you for keeping it respectable. I'm so, like, you know, I'm not trying to shit on Rob Zombie here, but it's like that was one of the things when he did Michael Myers, it became a Rob Zombie thing, and you didn't do that. Like you just said, you didn't say, hey, I'm going to make Jason, like, my thing. You totally paid respect to the character and characters, and that's what I think people love so much, is that that's the Jason everyone's very much familiar with. And I also wanted to bring up something that we said spoilers in this, you know, interview, and we're going to make sure that the episode has a spoiler disclaimer at the beginning. Something that I wanted to say to you was, even watching this, I had a little bit of nostalgia because of the ending with that bubble coming up out of Jason's mask, because I remember having an argument with my friend Mike when I was a kid. I remember I was a Michael Myers fan and he was a Jason fan. We were arguing over who was going to win, Michael or Jason, in a fight. And I was like, fucking Michael Myers, dude. He's supernatural. Anyway, Mike won the argument because his argument was, if Michael Myers gets his head cut off, he's done. If Jason gets his head cut off, that motherfucker is likely to pick it up and put it back on. And then I saw the bubble, and I was like, God damn it, he alluded to that, you know? So I just thought that was a really, really cool thing.
Figured it out.
That was really cool.
You figured out the trick. That's nice. Yeah, no, everybody, well, how would you bring, it's so funny. I was like, how would you bring Jason back? How would you bring Jason back? I was like, he would literally walk out of the water with his head in his hands, put it back on his body. The blood would fuse it back into his body, and he would be back to work. And the thing I love about the ending of the film is that, like, it has a lot of different meanings depending on whose, you know, view you're looking at it from. But from Jason's point of view, what I'm saying is Jason hasn't been defeated. Jason has finally accepted rest.
Oh, I like that.
That his spirit and his soul and his anger will rest. And that bubble, yeah, he could come back if he wanted to, but that bubble specifically is a sigh of relief.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's really
done.
Cool to know that.
And it's sort of him being able to there. And then, you know, with him destroying his mother's head, you know, that is Tommy's. I keep telling people, I'm like, you know, Tommy's only half right. Yes, if you go after the head and you destroy it, you're definitely going to put Jason in a vulnerable position where, you know, you will be able to get a strike in. But is it going to completely sever the connection of him in this world and all of these things? Because the whole series is much bigger than, you know, obviously the head is a big part of it, but, like, it can't all rest in one Horcrux. And when Pamela appears at the end of the film, it is sort of a way of her ensuring Jason that it's okay, that she's not her head. She's much more than just an old crusty head that he's been keeping in a basket behind his bed. That she's a spirit that's always going to be there for him, and that she's waiting for him to come home, and that she's ready for when he wants to come home. But he has felt the need to sort of protect this thing. So when she shows him that she's going to be there, and if he lets go, he can join her, that he sort of lets it all go. And that's when he's ready to just accept his fate, because there's no way he doesn't know that, you know, Tommy's behind him with the machete. He's just sort of like George looking out into the distance, you know, before he gets shot in the back of the head. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, look at me, look at me. And then, you know, he's done, he falls into the water and he gets that kind of rest. And I've also said this on record many times too, that, like, it's just not a smart move to try to, like, really, really seal the coffin on Friday the 13th in any way, shape, or form. Always leave an open door. So that way, if somebody wants to come on and continue the series, that if they put the pieces together right, they could pick this up, because technically this is a nice final chapter to the Jarvis Jason storyline. It gives, you know, Tommy the feeling that he did everything that he needed to do to sort of come up with the mistake that he made of resurrecting Jason in part 6. And we learned through this story too that It wasn't that he just dug Jason up on a whim. It was that Jason haunted him until he did. He was driven to do that. There was something pulling him, and whatever that force is no longer pulling him. He doesn't feel it anymore. He actually feels free. And I can't tell you how bad Tom begged me to make sure that we could get the reflection of young Stevie in the water when he looked down and saw the reflection in the water instead of seeing himself, but seeing the young version of himself instead of Jason in the water now. Like, all of those things of just all these people getting their closure. Diana getting her son back, which is calling back to Pamela never finding her son and going crazy and killing people. Because if we had more money and we had more time and I had more screen time with Diana, I would have made her sort of semi-crazy and almost kill Rick. Like, it would have come to the point where she would have almost snapped and killed him, because that's where the curse was going to push her. For this, I had shorter amount of time, so I could only pick one thing. So I picked just the fact that it was just haunting her about her son and driving her to craziness. But you can kind of see her getting there in some of those scenes where it was sort of intended. So there's all that stuff. But yeah, with Jason, it was definitely like, it's like Godzilla, you know what I mean? Like at the end of Godzilla 1984, when he's going into the volcano.
So sad, man.
Like, yeah, he's the bad guy. He's been killing everything, but it's sad. It's like you want to feel bad for him a little bit. You wanted to give that to Jason. And I feel like that was my goal. It was just sort of like hit it right down the middle of like, yes, the bad guy's defeated, but we also feel pretty good for the bad guy because the bad guy is no longer, destined or like called to do anything. But in the future, if he was disturbed in any way, if his body was disturbed, if the lake was disturbed, if the area around the lake, he would sort of become more of a swamp thing where he would protect the forest at that point as a protector of nature and kill people and then return to his resting place and go back. I think that would be a fun way to bring him back, like in another just non sequitur thing. Like, oh, they're going to finally do that. The storyline that we've all talked about for decades, which is they're going to try to open up condos on top of Crystal Lake, and the construction crew wakes them up, which would be pretty funny. But until then, Jason's got a nice retirement plan there at the bottom of the lake.
Well, look, man, you've proven that people will, fund your projects. You've proven to be a hell of a director. What's next for you? Like, are we going to get an original horror film out of you? Do you have any future projects that you could speak on?
Yeah, no, we're actively developing a few different projects right now. I actually have a meeting with my manager this weekend where we're going to discuss the options that are on the table. I've been publicly announced as attached to a project called Kindness of Strangers, which is about two serial killers that discover each other on the open road and then battle it out till only one left standing. I've been attached to another project that I can't announce yet because I haven't signed an official deal with it, but it's a very, very cool one. That's a little bit different. It's more of a cop procedural set in the world of a sort of a Friday the 13th world, but it's very grounded. So that one's really cool. We have some original shorts. Like there's one called EMF that I'm going to work with Tom on, where he plays a paranormal investigator, and it very much has the same cinematic style as Never Hike Alone. So it's mixed media. So there's a found footage aspect where he's a solo ghost hunter. He has somebody who works in the van, and he's investigating a haunted place. Then the haunt goes awry. And it's very much based on or inspired by television terror from Tales from the Crypt, where Morton Downey Jr. goes into the house and he basically does Geraldo's vault, where he's walking around with the camera crew, and all of a sudden, like the dead bodies that were all killed in the house start to come alive. There's a little bit of that vibe to this, so it's a lot of fun. There's an animated film called Ghost Chicken that we want to get animated. It's about a vegan restaurant that's haunted by the ghost of a chicken, and the one girl determined to figure out why. And then there is there's also more Friday the 13th projects on the way in the form of animation. So we announced Ghosts in the Fog last year. We still have to do some work to raise more money to get that animated, but we do have the animatic, which is storyboards cut together in a editorial timeline. It's not quite animated, but you get the idea type thing. That's how we time everything out. So that's completed, but we need to animate it now. So we need a good amount of money. So we're going to run a Kickstarter just for that. And then there's other stories that we want to tell. Ghost of Crystal Lake, which I said that I would do as a prequel. We're not going to have the time and money to do that with what we have left, not even close. But I am going to write that short story out. I'm going to try and write the Pamela short story with it as well, so people get that story and the complete compendium of what Never Hike Alone is. The post Paramount Never Hike Alone era is sort of encapsulative of like how it connects to Paramount in every single way, and then just emphasizes everything that we've done. But those other projects, those feature projects that I've been talking about, those are all we're going to go for private financing, like the right way. And Never Hike Alone has given us the ability to walk into a room and say, hey, with $288,000, I was able to create this production. And this production is 1 hour and 13 minutes long. It's, a third of the budget of what I would get for, an actual feature if I was starting off at this level. This budget is like a fifth of what it should have been if I paid everybody the right amount, and we did do the amount that we were supposed to do. And if you think about it, I did the math, which was over the last 6 years for just Friday the 13th alone, or Never Hike Alone, we've raised, I believe, $430,000, and we've created over 2.5 hours of material, if not more. So that's pretty good considering the original Friday the 13th is about $1.15, $1.20, and it was made for $750,000 or $790,000 in 1979. So, we walk into those meetings saying we can stretch this dollar. We can find the places to make this look really good. And with the tools that we have, we can achieve the high level production value of a much higher budget production with the technology that we have today, and then have the story chops to give you something that will keep people engaged and entertained.
That's all of that stuff sounds excellent, man. I can't wait to see this stuff, man. Can you tell our listeners where can they keep up with you on social media to keep up on your next projects and take a look at your stuff?
Yeah, definitely want to follow us at Womp Stomp Films, WOMPSTOMPFILMS. That's on YouTube for sure, because that's where all of our films are. Everything from our original stuff to all of our fan films and the stuff that we've helped co-produce. We are on Instagram, Facebook, X, and also TikTok. X, Twitter. We do a lot of traffic on Twitter. So we're all there. They can email us at wompstompfilms@gmail.com. And of course, the Indiegogo is going to be open through at least the end of the year, if not a little bit into next year. We're going to keep pre-orders open for the Never Hike Alone Blu-ray. We have the first edition Blu-ray, which is a traditional blue case with the sort of the camp poster that we used to originally market the film. And then we also have a second edition called the Jarvis versus Jason edition. We just announced recently that we're going to put those in red cases. We're going to make it a dual disc set, so you can potentially, we're going to figure out which disc we want to put in there, but it may come with the Ghost Cut and Never Hike Alone 2 in one package. There's only going to be 1,300 of those packages made. It will come with a thank you card signed by myself and Tom Matthews and hopefully a few other people. And those will be hand numbered. So those are going to be limited press. Only 1,300 will be made. There's already been, I think, 2,600 sold of the other Blu-ray. So either one that you want to do, there's VHS tapes. We just released the Battle Damage hockey mask on the campaign recently. There's little mini Ghost Jason figures, which are really cool. And then just a lot of other cool stuff, t-shirts, pins, posters, anything you want. If you email me, happy to build you a secret perk, and anything you'd like, because there's still time to, get your material. Because once the Indiegogo closes and this campaign closes, like, it's not going back to Walmart. It doesn't get restocked. Like, you may get some of our overflow down the line, but like, you got to get it now or else it's never coming back.
Yeah, definitely, John. Me and you definitely need to get that red case.
Yeah, I need the red case. I already have the other Blu-ray pre-order though.
Oh, I will say this: if you already have the other case ordered, there is an ability to upgrade. I can't remember if I disabled them or not, but if I have and you can't find them in a past update and those links don't work anymore, hit me up. I'll reactivate them, and you can just upgrade your Blu-ray. So if you want to shift over from a blue to a red, there is just it'll take less money. You don't have to go and spend a whole new $40 to get it done. Like, we want to take care of people so they don't have to overspend to get it done.
That's awesome. Well, before we say goodbye here, man, it's Halloween. This is our Halloween episode, so I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, probably Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yep.
Yeah,
3 for
when you
3.
get like a good like package of Reese's peanut butter cups is always and especially like even the single ones are always nice. They're such a great snack. I would say, yeah, they definitely like in the bite-sized version to get a single Reese's peanut butter cup, I think is the most. I think that's the prize of the bag.
I would agree, and I think John agrees as well. So, all right.
Right, unanimous.
Well, thank you, Vincent, for coming back on our show, man, and hopefully somewhere down the line, during one of these other projects, we'd love to chat with you again. Well, hopefully we'll see you around.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll always be here, guys. You want to chat horror? I'm the guy.
All right, man. You take care.
Take care.
You guys have a great one.
All right, thanks to our guest Vincent DiSanti for joining us today. Make sure to follow us online at High on Horror 420 everywhere on the social medias. Next week we'll have Ghost of the Void. We got a screener for that. We'll bring you our review. Make sure to follow us, like I said, online already. I don't know why I need to say it again. I already told you to follow us on High on Horror 420. Send us your PPA questions at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Check out our reviews of short films from the Toronto After Dark Film Festival if you didn't get those on our website at highonhorror.com. And I guess I'll catch you later. It's Halloween. Remember, everybody's entitled to one good scare.
See you next week.